Okay, hello. So this is my first time doing this. Like I promised, I'm gonna reply to questions for my stories in video format for a bit. I don't know if anybody's actually gonna like this, but I thought it was fun. It's worth a shot. You guys get answers to questions, and I can be a little bit more flowy with it than I might be in writing. Maybe people will be down, maybe they won't, but I wanted to try it out. So, so basically, I recorded a bunch. I wrote down the questions that were actual questions, um, uh, or comments that I thought I could answer in some way in a document here. I'm gonna start reading them off and then let you know basically my thoughts, what they made me think about for the Rewired saga in particular. Some of them are from earlier chapters, and a couple of them are from the most recent one. I'll try and do this for all the other stories, like Dial, Monsters of My Own, What's a Koopa to Do, the A World of Rotten Eggs. I almost called it the Eggman story. Anyways, I'll read these off. The first two are comments that were sort of related to each other. One is from Mass Gamer. It said basically just recommending that there's always gun kung fu inside stories. Like there's always gun kung fu if I wanted to like have guns and have a martial arts story. Freezerburn said something along those lines. Um, well, first off, he said that I need a cyberpunk story like this, even if it isn't based fully off of the game, CD Projekt Red or tabletop. Which fair. And thankfully, Edgerunner has made it so that there's a lot more people making those stories. Um, and then he said that I love what you got so far, and I'm intrigued by this Neo Australia, a country with really strict gun laws. To compensate, martial arts are more available. Then I'm interested either way. Looking forward to more. Thank you. So, in relation to the whole gun thing, I did for a time kind of think about having guns because one of the things I like about cyberpunk is the cool sci-fi weapons and crazy things you can do with guns and whatnot. But one of the reasons why I wanted to write this is because I really wanted to have like a fighting game type storyline, but in the future. And as much as I love fighting games, uh, guns are always going to win over a martial artist. Well, not always. Obviously, if you're a martial artist and you're right in front of a guy with a gun, you have more of an advantage than a person who doesn't have martial arts. But at the end of the day, a bullet is a bullet, and a bullet doesn't care how many martial arts you know. It's just about force hitting your body as hard as possible. So you can have a martial arts story with guns, but I wanted to at least have some reason why people wouldn't just use a gun rather than learn complex martial arts. So that's why my sister, who helped me work on workshop a lot of this, agreed with me that having a setting where guns are illegal for the mass populace would make it so that we could have a better reason for why a lot of people in this world learn martial arts instead. Why a lot of old school HEMA martial arts are coming back. Why people are learning everything they can, whether from masters within the city, people who come from all across the world, to Machito, the main city of the story, to learn those martial arts and to teach those martial arts, or if they learn it in VR suites. Wow. Part of the reason why guns are still illegal in Australia is because corporate interests that entered the nation worked hard to keep it that way because they may have. I don't want to spoil too much. Suffice to say, there are some parts in Australia where people have guns, but they're not legal and they are very anti-government, anti-corporation type people because they just want their freedom. And I'm not trying to make a political statement with that. I just wanted to have a lot of cool martial arts within the city. Maybe later on, as characters get more powerful, or as we get into like the higher levels of cybernetics, guns will come in. But right now, since it's a very ground level story, the main city is not going to have any guns, and everybody's going to use variations of martial arts and to fight together, to fight in the streets. And I wanted to get creative with it too. Okay, hopefully I didn't ramble too much. This one I thought was funny. It's from Bones Malone. He said, "Can't wait for obligatory Kung Fu Panda references. I'd riot if there weren't." He was joking, but um, admittedly, I do want to have Kung Fu Panda references because I do love Kung Fu Panda. I think it's one of the best franchises out there. We like not even a joke. Like I really think Kung Fu Panda is really good, and I love the philosophy of martial arts the characters follow. I genuinely think it's something that you shouldn't feel ashamed for getting inspiration from it. And I did have this idea of in Batman Beyond. I think it's season 2, episode 1. I could be off, but I know that in Batman Beyond there is an episode where they bring in the idea of splicers, people who mix animal DNA with their own DNA to become hybrids. And I like the idea of taking advantage of that, and because if people are able to this, I'm going to mention something about this later on, but if people want to express individuality in certain ways, why wouldn't we have people who think that part of their individuality is, why can't I just mix my DNA with a bear and I could be like a bear hybrid person? Why can't I mix it with a tiger or a snow leopard and be a hybrid with that? Why and gain power that way? Obviously, I don't want to go. I don't want to go too deep into it, but I just like the idea that while one of the ways that you can express yourself is to have, dang it, what's the word for it? Is to have cybernetics, augmentations, or even something as simple as clothes that can mold and change its appearance based on what you're doing. Then why wouldn't people want to? I feel like I'm bringing in the furry community talking about this. But yeah, I want to get. I gotta. I have some inspiration from Kung Fu Panda. I love Kung Fu Panda, and I think it's fantastic. So I don't mind having some call outs to that series in this if I can fit them in somehow. All right. This goes to the whole individuality thing, though. Scorpio 723 mentioned asked if there was a difference between the types of cybernetics here, like the Aztec woman in the second chapter, who has arms made literally out of stone in the shape of Aztec arms, and I'll try to put a picture there, displaying what my inspiration for that was, right there. I hope I put it there. um, Halae, Halle. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. Said that it tracks that there would a lot of people would have different arms and stuff like that, because one of the core principles of cyberpunk is that no one can take your sense of expression from you, and sometimes everyone around you is going to wish they could because you're going to go weird with it. I mean, we've all seen really ugly tattoos. I've seen tattoos recently of Jeffrey Dahmer on people, and that, what the heck? Anyways, um, but of course, if I'm not gonna take away people's sense of expression, no matter how weird it is. And I did respond to this one. I spoke a little bit about like while companies can make generic cybernetic arms and such like that, stuff like that. Um, it's not That's not the only option available to you. It's just the cheapest and somewhat reliable option. It's a lot like the iPhone nowadays. You know, you can get an iPhone, but you shouldn't jailbreak it unless you're actually good with technology. So, if you want to get a cybernetic hand, then you can get like a generic hand that will do the job you want with prosthetics, similar to prosthetics of today. It'll just be able to grab and whatnot. Or you go next level with it. You'd like have like all sorts of cool arcane drawings across it. You can put a gun in the center, not a gun. You can put like a knife that comes out of the center, so you can do like an Assassin's Creed thing. You can make the nails claws. You can go all in on making it look like it's made out of literal water or stone. And it sort of goes into one of the things I think is very important, not just in cyberpunk, but in fighting games and mythology in general. Whenever you have a character in a fighting game, you want it to be easily recognizable from all the other characters. Or at the very least, if it does look similar to another character, it needs to be different enough that you can compare it to the character without while still keeping it individual. I'm thinking of like Ryu, Ken, Akuma. You know, those three are obviously very similar in terms of fighting style and appearance, but they're just different enough that that you can tell the difference from them you can tell the difference between them at a glance, right? And that sort of individuality, I think, is going to be important in the story. Every character that I design has to be in some way unique. Oh god, that's a lot of work. um, but I also think it's important in cyberpunk stories that um, even as corporations start to envelop themselves more and more into everyday life, you have to keep a part of your soul. You have to keep part of your individuality. All right. You can work for everybody's going to end up working for the man at some point, right? Like a lot of people are going to end up being warehouse workers, office workers for some big corporation. Buddy, the video's going. Come on. Love you. It's going to be very important for people to try and keep their soul. And one of the ways I wanted to show people doing that was, of course, by not just having uh, generic prosthetics or generic changes to their body, but also do it in ways that call out to their culture, their favorite video games, their favorite movies, to things that they relate to. You know, a tattoo is a tattoo is kind of the best comparison that you can make to these kinds of things. And going into that, one thing that I think is absolutely going to happen in the future of in the real world future as well as in the story is that um, you see it all the time that whenever something he thinks he's slick, you see it all the time in the modern day. Whenever, buddy, you see it all the time in the modern day that when things like indie video games end up hitting it big, corporations immediately swarm in on it to try and take over. You know, whenever you see music on YouTube starting to make it big, and corporations see those musicians, those guys like Jonathan Young or Halocene, they'll try to make money off of them, despite the fact that they might have ignored them 1,000 times over if they were trying to be enter into a recording studio. It, companies do not like individuals making money when they could make that money instead. So they'll try and tie people into their corporation as much as possible. All right. So if you make a story and it becomes popular on the internet, people will try and make money off of you that way. If you make a VR environment and that VR environment becomes very popular, they want to shut down that individuality as soon as possible and take a hold of that VR environment and make money of it. I'm not saying they're doing this to be evil. Profit is profit at the end of the day. Companies want to hop on the next big thing to make cash off of it. It's not evil. It's just insidious. So that becomes more important, I think, in a cyberpunk setting. The idea that you got to keep a piece of your soul that is separate from the rest of the world, from the corporations that try to take advantage of it. Uh, Hopefully, I wasn't just rambling. Okay, back to the story. So, in the story, at one point, I introduced Ramirez, who was a character I'm kind of excited about, but obviously, because I introduced him, Scorpio mentioned that the way I introduced him was kind of random, but also whenever you introduce a character like this, sure you should keep like a heavy hitter like Ramirez. Obviously, is meant to be handy, but the fact that you need one speaks volumes. Which, of course, in the story, that's I'm glad that he picked up on that. And an individual on Royal Road whose name is not in here. Oh, and then C. Spirit on Royal Road said, "I see an exchange like this in a few chapters. That wasn't the deal. I changed the deal. Pray I don't change it further." I'm trying to do like a Vader voice. It's totally bad. And then you can't trust the Johnson. You absolutely cannot. Sam is never supposed to be trustworthy. Um, that's obvious. And I'm okay with that because he was never supposed to be like the mystery villain. He was always going to be the guy that nobody would trust, and whoever is the man behind the man is the one that people kind of need to figure out. Who is the client that's hired him? Who has required Ramirez to be on the team? Uh, yeah, basically. Archio Lumiere on Royal Road said, I would absolutely love some character profiles. I'd also be interested in seeing setting notes. This place seems like a fun RP setting." And then Eli 101 2101 said, "Character profiles would be cool for sure. That being said, what I truly crave is more Chappie. I will absolutely make more Chappie, I promise. It's almost the next one's almost done." And Scorpio 723 said, "And count me in for backgrounds and profiles too." Um, so I got to work on the profiles a little bit. I have some on Campfire, but I'd rather make them in my own format that looks similar to the kind of format you would see for fighting character profiles in like old video game manuals and stuff, where you would see the page, and the page would be like, oh, here's the character, here's the blood type, here's where they came from, brief history, fighting moves. I'd like to make something like that. I don't know if I can like make a format for that makes that will work for every character. Um, but I'd kind of like to make that kind of callback. The first one I'd want to do is for Yun and for Kyrianos, who is sort of supposed to be like the Zeus, the Heihachi, the top dog of this world. Um, yeah, that's everything. I don't know how much people are gonna like it, or how many people are actually gonna watch it, but I had fun. I had more fun writing this out than I making this than I thought I would. I'll try and edit this with pictures and stuff. Hopefully, I can do that. Uh, and in the meantime, I hope you enjoyed watching it if you did watch it up to this point. And I will catch you later.